Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Medellín. Am, Hoy el tema siguiente al video de ayer, am, vamos a compartir cómo hago hoy para mejorar am, mi español. Entonces, hoy am, yo estoy estudiando el mismo texto que yo leí ayer, pero también con otras preguntas de comprensión y para buscar si yo puedo hacer un resumen con el texto. Ese es el tema de hoy. So, hello everyone. Still raining here in Medellin. But so, the theme today, following from yesterday's introduction, if you like, to this process. Yesterday, you remember, I read a little bit of the text I was using to practice my Spanish now. It's quite a long text, really. But what I did today was I did some comprehension type questions that I'd got the computer that helped me write the text to begin with also asked me some questions. There's like an optional sort of 6 or so questions on the text, and that's quite helpful because it gives you a way of checking, okay, how much of this did you understand? Can you understand the questions? And it's a way of trying to rephrase some of the key points in the text. And obviously, summaries are one of the best ways to really test whether you have understood the thing you've been reading or the thing you've been talking about. Particularly because it gets you to express your thoughts in your words. So it's not necessarily about can you spot the key words, it's not like repeating the paragraphs you've read. It's more about can you express what you've read, can you explain that to someone else, but in your words. Now this is a bit challenging, admittedly, when we try and do this in our new language, because often our fluency isn't really in any way the same. So be prepared to have to try and express this in quite basic terms, but that in itself is not such a bad thing. I'm thinking here particularly of the quite famous Feynman technique, which is well documented. You'll see lots of examples of this. A very famous way of taking very complicated information. I remember Richard Feynman was a nuclear physicist, and trying to find a way to explain that to like a non-specialist audience. The idea being that if you're able to condense the essential elements of something very complicated in a way that you can explain to someone who's not an expert on that topic, it shows you've really got quite a deep understanding, because you're able to use completely different and effectively non-technical vocabulary to explain the ideas behind that topic. So there is clearly some value in being able to practice some type of summary or resumen, shall we say, of what you've been reading. That was quite challenging today, a little bit testing, but again, it's worth having a go, see how you can improve on that. For me, I was trying to think of it more like bullet points. So okay, I've read the text, these are like the 5 or so key ideas I know that's like the sequence I would want to explain this topic in, and just try and link those together. I find that quite helpful, because then I'm only looking at really sort of the 5 key words I need, and the rest I can try and improvise with my level of Spanish. So that's the tip for today. Whatever type of reading you're doing, when you've done maybe like a paragraph or so of that reading, just stop and think, how can I explain that in my new language? How can I explain what I've just read in my new language? This is something I've been using with some success with several of my students, and it is quite helpful. It's not just about we look for any new words in the vocabulary, because obviously we need that to make sure we're understanding what we're reading. But afterwards, every paragraph or two, see if you can give a quick summary of what we've just been reading about. Because if we leave it right to the end of the text, often, well, it's a lot to try and remember, particularly if it's in your second language. So every paragraph or so, just think, okay, what can I quickly say about this? What's this paragraph generally about? It doesn't have to be a repeat of the paragraph, it's just what's it generally about. That in itself should help you start to bring in your vocabulary to express the author's ideas, and that's a good way of practicing. So there we go. That's the idea for today. When you're doing your reading, don't necessarily wait right to the end. Stop regularly. See if you can paraphrase, summarize for some kind of resume of what you've been reading. Remember the Feynman technique, that kind of style of doing it. Make it simple, easy to understand. See how you go from there. So that's the idea for now. Déjeme saber en los comentarios, como siempre. Hope you found this one useful. But for now, from Medellin, we'll say cheerio.